I'm sorry, I thought it was the previous chapter. It's,
Good.
that had only 16 verses. Okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So tasya hava ena kunak उच्चैरे तस्मिन् कृत निजाभिमानस्य हार हस
Tasya
Tasya
ena punaka ujjaya tasmin krita
Karta
ujjabhimanasya
तत्पोषण पालन लालन प्रणनानुध्यानेन नेनात्म नियमाः सह
Tatposhan
Tatposhana palana lalana prina nanu
Yamaka
hyamanat niyama saha
यमाः पुरुष परिचर्यादय एकैकशः कतिपयेनाहार गणेन वियुज्यमानाः किल सर्व एवोदवसन्
Yamaha Purusha
yama purusha
Paridya
parichara yadaya ekaikata katipayena har ganena viyunja
Sarva Pavitava.
Arvaibo Navasan.
Married to
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, General Pranam. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Gradually, Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate towards the deer. He began to raise it and maintain it by giving it grass. He was always careful to protect it from the attack of a tiger and other animals. When east, he petted it, and in this way, he always tried to keep it in a comfortable condition. He sometimes kissed it out of love. Being attached to raising the deer, Maharaj Bharat forgot the rules and regulations for the advancement of spiritual life, and he gradually forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. After a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. But that's by Sri Prabhupada. From this was understand how we have to be very cautious in executing our spiritual duty by observing the rules and regulations and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If we neglect doing this, we will eventually fall down. We must rise early in the morning, bathe, attend Mangala Aarti, worship the deities, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, study Vedic literature, and follow all the rules prescribed by the Acharya and the spiritual masters. If we deviate from the process, we may fall down, even though we may be very highly advanced, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.5. Yajnadane tapaha karma na tajyam karyam etat yagno dayanam tapse pavani manishnam. Act of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great soul. Even if one is in the renounced order, he should never give up the regulative principles. He should worship the deity and give his time and life to the service of Krishna. He should also continue following the rules and regulations of austerity and penance. These things cannot be given up. One should not think on self very advanced simply because one has accepted the sannyasa order. The activities of Bharat Maharaj should be carefully studied for one's spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna Bhagavan.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Thank you. Hmm. So, Actually, if we see the previous verses also, this is a very instructive pastime. And this is also like it may seem very simple, but it's a very hard pastime. It's one of the hardest pastimes if we meditate upon its meaning. So, especially very significant for grahasthas. I mean, renunciates really don't have much problem. Renunciates are already renunciates, they're detached. But for grahasthas, this becomes extremely important because grahasthas live in the midst of Maya. So Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, we're seeing here what happens. So if we look at these incidents one by one, we can see how instructive they are in our own life and how in our own life we can avoid pitfalls and how we can see that how we have fallen in our own lives. See, Maharaj Bharat was performing his austerities. So Maharaj Bharat had no ill intentions in his heart. His heart was pure. I mean, he's the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so there is no question of his heart being contaminated with false ego in that sense. But yet we see how false ego acts. So Maharaj Bharat was sitting down on the banks of Gandaki and he was chanting his mantras. And there he saw this deer who had come to drink water. And see, what is the position of deer? Deer is an animal, that means in a mode of ignorance, which means completely entangled by material nature. So in this material nature, Krishna is saying, I mean, in the 10th canto, it is said, Padam Padam hi Vipadam. Every step is full of danger. So for one who is not under the shelter of Krishna, there is danger at every step. And there is a perception of danger also at every step. So there is a perception of this danger at every step. So you see, Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithun, every living entity is living under the influence of four. So she came to drink water, that means Ahar. She was, of course, an animal. So Nidra, that means itself she was in ignorance. Bhaya and Maithun. So you can see that she was so full of, deer means always fearful. So like one of my friends was raising cows in a cow shelter. And he used to tell me that cows were always so frightened that they would practically not sleep. Little bit of sound and cows were immediately scared. That's the position of an animal, always living in fear. So when a human being also takes shelter of material nature, he also lives constantly in fear. So she was very fearful and she was frightened by the sound of the lion and she aborted the fetus and she died. Now, see, the small deer bereft of its mother floating down the river that Maharaj Bharat saw, and he felt great compassion. Now you see, the purport that Srila Prabhupada gives is very instructive. Look at this verse here. Yam hina vivachyante te purusham purusharshava sama dukkha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. So, O best among men, Arjun, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. What does that mean? Krishna has started the Bhagavad Gita. So actually Krishna starts his instructions from verse 14. So what is that verse that Krishna is quoting? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhada agama paino nityas tam stitikshasva bharata. Krishna does not start Bhagavad Gita with the soul. Krishna does not start the Bhagavad Gita with God, love of God. He does not start with renunciation or anything. The very first instruction that Krishna gives is tolerance. Tam stitikshasva bharata. So happiness and distress appear and disappear in due course, just like the summer and winter. One must learn to tolerate. Tam stitikshasva bharata. So what is this happiness and distress? One may think, okay, I have some headache, I can tolerate that. One has to tolerate distress anyhow. There's no recourse. But happiness also one has to tolerate. So now we are going. So now here Krishna is now speaking. Samadukha sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate. One who learns to tolerate this way becomes eligible for liberation. Material world means bewilderment. At every step we are bewildered. There is like, Maya will confound us. You may think you have done something right, and immediately Maya will tell you that you have done something wrong. Maya is here to confuse you. She will make you ecstatic, she'll make you miserable, she will confuse you, she'll make you angry, she'll make you sad, she'll put you in so many conditions. And all of this simply distracts you from Krishna. Why does Krishna say Gyatva Mam Shantim Rachati? Krishna is not saying Gyatva Mam Sukham Rachati. No, Shantim Rachati. Because peace is not what we get in this life. Every situation is always agitating us. Oh, a child is born in the family. Oh, there is a marriage in the family. Everyone is ecstatic. A child is born in the family. Everyone is ecstatic. Somebody dies in the family. Everyone becomes miserable. But in this ecstasy and misery, we simply forget to notice how time is passing away. So Krishna is saying, Samadukham sukham dhiram somritatvaya kalpate, one who learns to tolerate. So why is Srila Prabhupada quoting this verse? This is the hardest lesson of Bhagavatam. We have to learn to tolerate. So recently one of our friends was advised to join the Brahmachari ashram. And he was advised that, anything can happen at any moment, any calamity can happen. And if it's a family calamity, then you will be forced to take up to Grihastha ashram. Then you won't be able to take Brahmachari ashram. So you see, in this material world, compassion is the highest quality. Who can deride you for being compassionate? But Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. It is explaining to you that the so-called material compassion is also another trick of Maya to bind us into this material world. A few years ago, one of my very good godbrother, he was a very strict brahmachari. He had to leave his ashram because his parents are old and they didn't have income. Now, this may, on the face of it, may seem like compassion, but this personality would have lost his own chance of liberation. This material world is a blazing fire. You can save others only when you can save yourself first. You remember, if you take flights, at the very beginning, they have this, safety announcement. What is that safety announcement? Please put on your mask before helping others. And that's a very strict rule. You may have your child, you may have your mother, you may have your father there. But first, you put on the mask. They may be helpless, but if you become incapacitated, nobody will be able to do anything. If you are not able to put on your mask in case of decompression, you will become unconscious, your child will die, you will die. If you take time in putting on your mask, the child may die, but at least you will be saved. If you don't do that, both will anyway not be saved. So at least put on your mask. Then when you are fully conscious, you can help others. So in bhakti also, in spiritual life also, what is Mahaprabhu saying? Janma sarthaka kari kar paropkar. First save yourself. A drowning man cannot help another drowning man. In this material world, we cannot save any family members. Only Krishna can. If we are fully Krishna conscious, Krishna will protect. If we are not fully Krishna conscious, anyway we won't be able to do anything. So that's the lesson here, that Maharaj Bharat should have neglected the baby deer. Now this may sound exceptionally cruel, very hard, but that was the destiny. Maharaj Bharat interfered. He became compassionate and he is going to suffer, as we are seeing here. He forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. What is a deer? For the sake of a man, for the sake of a family, a man may be sacrificed. For the sake of a village, a family may be sacrificed. For the sake of the nation, the whole village may be sacrificed. But for the sake of the soul, the whole world may be sacrificed. So you see, this would have been a very small sacrifice to make. That was the destiny of the baby deer. But Maharaj Bharat interfered. And therefore, he fell down because he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement. And compassion led him to this condition. See, Srimad Bhagavatam is not going to speak some childish philosophy. Here we're not talking something, someone breaking the 4 regulative principles. Here we are talking about fall down in extreme conditions. All these personalities we have talked about are great personalities. Maharaj Prachina Varishat, whom we were, Narad Muni was making fun of him. But Maharaj Prachin Varishat was also a very pious soul. So they are not ordinary personalities, but yet we are seeing what are the subtle levels of fall down, how subtle fall downs take place. So in this case, Maharaj Bharat should have neglected the baby deer to his destiny and not taken care of him to save himself. So here we see what happens then. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, Yagya dana tapah karma na tyajyam karyam evatat. Yagyo danam tapashchaiva pavanani manishinam. That even in the stage of liberation, one should not give up these activities. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even a great soul. What does that mean? Chant, like once Prabhupada was asked, so Prabhupada, what will happen after we become liberated from material nature? Srila Prabhupada said, before liberation you are chanting, after liberation you will be chanting. In Golok Vrindavan there is chanting. We're chanting here, we're chanting in Golok. That's the nature of it. That's the nature of bhakti. It has to be done in every condition. So Maharaj Bharat became very affectionate toward the deer and he forgot his penances and austerities. And gradually, so you see, so many times devotees are debating. Like recently one devotee was telling me that one other devotee was saying that a liberated soul that never falls down. Yad gatvana nivartante tad dham paramam mama, Krishna is saying. So therefore it proves that we have originated from Brahman and not from material and not from spiritual world. No, that's not the case. Srila Jagadanand Pandit is very easily saying in Prem Vivarth, Krishna bahirmukh hai bhog vancha kare, nikatestha maya tara japatiya dhare. Even with Krishna, we can still fall down. It's our choice. It's always our choice. So here we see the exceptional case of Maharaj Bharat. He was also a liberated soul. But he gradually gave up his meditation on the Lord because he was living in the material nature. He gradually became attracted to it. Bhog Krishnera bahirmukh haya bhogavansha kare. Very pure soul. So therefore he was not having any degraded thoughts. But his thoughts deviated from Krishna towards matter. And we can see this was the highest emotion in material platform, compassion. And yet that compassion became the cause of his downfall. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna was General Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji said, whatever we do in this life is expression of Purva Karmas.
Yes.
Now here, Bharat Maharaj was very, very elevated. He was son of the Supreme Lord. He himself was emperor. And all that thing. So what happened? What was the Purva Karma that he resorted to this type of behavior?
No karma. It was an accident. Maharaj Bharat did not go out seeking deer. Maharaj Bharat was not thinking of women and wealth. Maharaj Bharat was not even after fame or anything. Maharaj Bharat was he was meditating on the Supreme Lord. He just happened to look. Dhayato vishayana pumsha sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho vijayate. So krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibhrama. Smriti brahmashad buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. So here we see Dhyayato Vishayana Pumsha. He just looked at it. Material world means there is distraction at every step. We see the story of Gop Kumar. So when he meets Krishna, Krishna asks him this very question. He says, my dear Gop Kumar, you came down with me in the material world when I came. But after I finished my pastimes, what happened? Why did you stay behind? What happened to you? Why did you get lost? That's the nature of material world. So many times, I mean, in the old days and even now sometimes, if you go to a big mall, you can hear announcements. Mr. So-and-so, your child is in this shop, please come and find him. Or your child is with security, please pick up your child. Why? The parents are walking, the child is looking at attractive things, he sees some toys and he just goes towards them. And he forgets that the parents have walked away. So this is what happens to Jiva. Krishna bhuli sei jiva anadi bahir mukha. We turn our face away from Krishna, immediately Maya captures us. So because this is Maharaj Bharat, no Urvashi, no Rambha could have tempted him. Therefore, Maya tempted him in the form of extreme compassion, a newborn baby. And Maharaj Bharat, in the absence of anyone around, he thought it was his duty to protect. So Maya is always going to distract us. Maya is like waves. They'll blow us anytime.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Thank you, Murli. Thank you. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you, Murli.
Yes.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavada.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, we always we have heard and we know that generally the activities done by devotees and non-devotees are the same. I mean, externally they look the same, but it is basically the consciousness with which you are doing. So devotees are doing the same activities, but without any attachment all the time. So, matlab, when Maharaj Bharat was at such an elevated platform, I mean, he could have done this activity. Means it's naturally that he's such an elevated devotee that compassion is going to come to him very naturally.
Yes.
But then he could have done it with detachment. No? Means that is what we expect a person who's spiritually advanced. You are doing it.
It's very difficult.
But even at the stage that he was in.
Yes, yes. Why are people advised to take sannyas? Sannyas is not some kind of fashionable thing. Sannyas means, see, if a very advanced devotee stays with family, there is bound to be some occurrence by which he would be distracted from Krishna. Now imagine a very advanced devotee is living at home, he's chanting, he's reading and chanting, and suddenly the wife becomes very sick, she suffers from cancer. What will the husband do? He will have to take care of her. He will have to think of her. He won't be able to focus on Krishna in his own twilight hours. At a time when he is about to himself leave the body, he would be becoming distracted by the occurrences around him. Therefore, one takes sannyas. Sannyas means now I have no shelter. Now only Krishna is my shelter. So whatever is happening is just a nuisance. I have to ignore everything. Sannyasi ignores everything. So you see, it's a very scientific method. Living within Maya, it's very difficult to ignore it. See, I'll see so many of our devotees have children who are not devotees. Forget about being not devotees. Some of them are outright rascals. But parents are not able to give up. Knowing fully well the instructions of the Shastras, when Duryodhan was born, the sages advised Dhritarashtra to abandon the child in a forest. They said this child will bring about the destruction of the dynasty. He must be abandoned. So when he was born, when Duryodhan was born, he was making noises like a donkey. Very inauspicious. The Brahmanas were horrified that this child is extremely inauspicious. Just dump him in a forest. So you see, that was the instruction on the basis of dharma. The sages were compassionate to the child, but they also knew that the child would bring about destruction of humanity. So for the sake of humanity at large, they gave such a cruel instruction. So a child who is, even Chanakya Pandit says that a child who is not qualified is fit to be abandoned. If a child is not taking to spiritual path, then he is fit to be abandoned. But who can do that? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that if I had a guarantee that my children would be devotee, I would give birth to hundreds of children. But in this material nature, we cannot predict anything. Therefore, it's best to stay an Naishtika Brahmachari. So you see, but why are devotees not able to give up? Because compassion. Now, who would the child take care? Who take care of the child? But this compassion becomes the cause of their downfall. Because all their valuable time is wasted. 18, 20, 25 years, child grows up, but parents are not able to give up the attachment. And then they become more and more entangled in other things. The problem is not that it's a singular distraction. This distraction has many branches and it entangles us from many directions.
Okay, taking this example only, Prabhuji, then what should practically be done?
Okay. Now that's very hard to say actually. People will kill me. So at least you don't try to shoot me. I'm not in India anyway. So see, to be honest, Srila Prabhupada was very disgusted. Post 1974, when Srila Prabhupada actually started residing in India, actually 1972 to 77, 5 years, Prabhupada mostly spent his time in India. He was not traveling too much abroad, and mostly in Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada became extremely disgusted with Grihastha. Like in 1974, I think it was Shyam Sundar Prabhu who was with Prabhupada, and they were in Vrindavan temple, and there was a chaos there. Lots of single mothers and their babies, who were not attending morning programs or other programs, but their children were screaming in the corridors and shouting in Krishna Balram temple. And Prabhupada was disgusted. At that time, he said, now that's it. No more Grihasthashram. If anyone wants to get married, let them find some occupation outside of the temple and maintain their families. In our movement, only dedication to Krishna. So you see, it's a very dichotomous situation. We really don't know what to do. According to Dharma Shastra, practically all the children today should be just given to some orphanage, because they are not going to be devotees. They are born in this Kali Yuga, the consciousness is Kali Yuga. It's very difficult. In spite of following all the rules and regulations of Garbhadan, there is no guarantee that the child would actually become a devotee. So, yeah, so practically, if you ask me, yes, the child should be given away to an orphanage, and the devotee should refrain from having any more children and constantly become a vanaprastha. Disengage from material life, because he or she will still be responsible for this karma. And if they continue to raise the child, then more karma will keep on accruing. More and more karma. The devotee's mind will become more and more distracted from Krishna. It will become practically impossible to fix oneself on Krishna. I mean, I see here in our temple, we have so many grihasthas. Some of them were preachers at one time. But now, because of children, they have even forgotten basics. First of all, there is affection for the child. Then affection is gone. Then it becomes attachment. And then that attachment leads to so many distractions. A child takes 18 years to grow. 18 years, that's like 20% of an ideal life, 100 years. But since we live up to 80 years only, so that's 25% of our life gone there and then. So 1/4 of life is gone in being attached to someone who's not going to be Krishna conscious. See,
But
it's very
Prabhuji, in
difficult.
spite of doing that, like
Hmm.
the same thing like Maharaj Bharat, no? Maharaj Bharat also left everything,
Huh.
his children, his family, and everything, and went to the forest so that he
Hmm.
could practice devotion properly.
Hmm.
So there is no guarantee that even if you do that, you will progress and you will advance. There will be something else coming.
Yes, there is no guarantee.
Then,
But
then
But if you
it's
stay
like
with a degraded child, then there is a guarantee that you are never going to progress. Abandoning such a child at least gives you some chance of progressing. Maya may take some mercy on you and say, okay, already there was distraction. Krishna may become merciful and he may say, okay, I'll protect this devotee now. He or she has taken such a big sacrifice for me. I mean, why are we doing this? We're not doing it because we hate the child or we don't want to raise it or it's too much difficulty. We're doing it for the sake of Krishna. Krishna is saying, Sarva Dharmana Parityajya Mama Ekam Sharanam Vraja. So yes, you have given up dharma. Now you have to take full shelter of Krishna also. What is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying? Krishna, Krishna, Raksha Mam, Krishna, Krishna, Pahi Mam. So Krishna, protect me, Krishna, maintain me. So that should be the mood then. Maharaj Ang, that's the best example. Actually, your story, like your question is answered by Maharaj Ang. We saw that in the story of, what was that king? Maharaj Prithu's pastime. So his father, Vena, we saw the story of King Vena. When Anga saw the demonic nature of the child, he immediately became Vanprastha. He left everything. He left the kingdom. So that's an ideal thing. That's why we say Grihastha Ashram is a very dangerous place. Everyone is doing it, but it is just like this, that everyone is smoking cigarette also. We're not going to smoke it. We know, as a doctor, you know that it can cause cancer. So everyone, like when I was in hostel, every boy was drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes. The drugs were very expensive and they were not available in our college at that time. So they were just taking alcohol, cigarettes, and meat eating, of course. That is Maharashtra being Maharashtra. meat eating and illicit sex. Pornography was very common. But that doesn't mean that we did it. I mean, we established a preaching program there, and 2 boys became brahmacharis from that place. So you see, like, if one wants to remain pure, one can remain pure in any circumstance. Our Nandadulal Prabhu, our Mukundamala Prabhu, they are brahmacharis from that college only. They were my juniors. So you see. So for sake of Krishna, we're doing the sacrifice for Krishna. That's why you see, it's a dangerous situation. Material world means danger at every step. Because that karma that comes, that starts disturbing our mind. We're not able to focus on Krishna properly. See, we read in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Gajendra is praying. He says, devotees, sages perform perfect austerities in brahmacharya, vanprastha and sannyas for thousands of years just to have a glimpse of your lotus feet. So you see, so that means, you have to think very deeply of Krishna. I was just having a conversation with Keshavanand Prabhu, and we were discussing the same thing, that in spite of spending so much time and so much conscious thought on Krishna, still it seems so difficult to attain that, that will be making any progress in this life. Because every time we are reading again and again, we are understanding Bhagavad Gita from some new dimension. And then we think that we actually don't know anything. We still haven't understood Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is like literally the simplest of all Bhagavad literatures. How much effort is required? And here we have Grihasthas who recite like 10 verses of Bhagavad Gita every Friday and they're happy. Hari Bol Prabhu, we do Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Prabhu. I met one devotee yesterday. Yes, Prabhu, I study Bhagavatam once a week. You're getting the point. Because in ignorance, the living entity doesn't even realize he's in ignorance. He thinks he's progressing nicely, but actually he's not moving anywhere.
I don't know, somehow, Prabhuji, I feel that about this discussion on children and abandoning them. It's better if a devotee is so Krishna conscious and does want to abandon the child for Krishna. He might as well not have a child rather
That's
than,
the
giving
point.
up the responsibility, after having a child. And he should, it is his duty. I mean, he cannot just.
That is
It's
what
better
Maharaj
that he
Bharat
doesn't-
also thought. Under normal Dharma Shastra. Now you see, Bhagavatam is talking at a very different level. Under normal circumstances, it was Bharat Maharaj's duty to protect the baby. And he did that. But Bhagavatam is explaining how, even while performing one's duty, one may fall down. Maharaj Bharat did not do anything. He did not violate any principles. He was in fact adhering to principles, dharma. And that is where we understand Krishna saying, Sarva Dharmana Parityajya. Arjun was duty bound not to kill Karna. Karna was, below, he had left his chariot. He was without weapon. Krishna advised him to kill Karna there and then. He said, if this man gets back on his chariot, you will not be able to defeat him. So you kill him now. So you see, that's the reason why Krishna is such a controversial personality. Because nuances of dharma are very difficult to understand. Maharaj Yudhishthir did everything right. And it was his conditioning in the mode of goodness which made him hesitate when Krishna asked him to tell a lie. And because he hesitated, he had to see the hellish planets. So you see, these are subtleties of dharma that you can understand only after studying Bhagavatam. That's why Srila Prabhupada used to advise that devotees who are wishing to have children, they should study the Bhagavatam, they should chant 50 rounds at least. And you think, if you chant 50 rounds, where will be the desire to have a child left? What is child really? Child is just an extension of our ahankar. Aham, mam, iti. That is a child. Otherwise, what is the practical benefit of a child? For a devotee. And for a materialist, child is like the best thing on earth. Like I remember one colleague of mine, he was so proud. Oh, I held my baby in my arms and I felt, oh, this is a life I have created. But that's a karmi thought process. A devotee should not fall into that trap. I mean, I understand, especially for ladies, a baby is like the achievement of life. But we should understand we are not men or women or anything. Our life is meant for service of Krishna.
But in this case, Prabhuji, when that acute situation was there, when the baby just fell, I mean, just newly born and could not, Maharaj Bharat could have just taken care of that part and he could have left the deer then in the jungle.
So that's the next verse. He thought that this baby had, see, like, I mean, you are a mother, you've seen how helpless a newborn child is.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't say, okay, I'm the mother of this child, I'll just feed the child and that's it. Next time I'll be just chanting. No, the child, you see, what are babies like? Like, I mean, I've never seen a baby in real life, but like I've lived with cats when I was a child. I've seen little kittens and how helpless they are. They attract you with their behavior. If you see little puppies or little kittens on the ground, you see babies, they're very attractive. And that's the nature of, that's the nature of a baby to attract you. That's a survival mechanism. The baby's activities are bound to attract everyone. And especially a personality like Maharaj Bharat, whose heart was already so softened by devotional service. He immediately became captivated by compassion. Not passion, but compassion.
But it's different with humans and with animals. With animals, so the mother anyway doesn't care so much after the baby is born. The human babies are so much more dependent that they have to be taken care of like that. But it's not like that with animals. They are left to fend for themselves, in no time by the parents.
Yeah, by our scale. But a baby animal is kept under care. Like I remember in 2004, a cat had given birth to 3 kittens in my office, where I was teaching in college. So I had an office and where the cat gave birth. And I saw this cat for 7 days. So the babies were in my office for 7 days and I used to observe them. The cat used to come thrice a day to take care of the babies properly, and she would make sure that they are very secure. Every animal does that. And if you have if you've seen pet animals, a pet cat will never go away anywhere from the baby. The pet cat, because she has food and security, then she takes only the care of babies. She won't let go of the babies at all. When big animals have to leave their babies because they have to forage, they have to find food and everything. Therefore, they have to leave their babies. But even in animals, because animal lifespan is anyway very short, a cat lives for like 10, 11 years, 13 years. For her, 1 year is like 10 years of ours. So a kitten within a week is like a month-old baby. But if you see elephants and cows, they raise their babies for a very long time. The same principle exists. The external mechanism may appear different, but the same principle exists. Mother always protects the child. She always remains very cautious. Of course, if we're talking about animals, then they mate every year. Humans don't do that. A cat may give birth to like 50, 60 kittens. But a woman will not give birth to 50 children. So you see, the principle is very much there. Aham mameti, I and mine. And so compassion also appears as a function of passion only. So you see, Maharaj Bharat became captivated. He became captivated by lower dharma. He forgot his real dharma. So therefore, Krishna is advising that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but to be performed. Even great souls are purified. Because you see, living in Maya, we are always in danger. The moment we stop our spiritual activities, we are performing material activities. And material nature is already seeping inside us. So, I mean, I'm not advocating that anyone should give up their children. Please don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, this is the law of dharma. In previous ages, people did that.
Didn't give up.
Yeah, so Shastras advise like this. Because savai pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje apratihata ahetuki. So, apratihata. So, the moment there is a child like this, a demonic child, there is pratighat. So, there will be obstruction. And Krishna's service would get distracted. So therefore one sacrifices. But of course, in previous ages, children were very saintly also. So in today's age, it's better to stay a brahmachari, spend more time in the service of Krishna. Because Kali Yuga anyway is a very heavy distraction itself. Okay, so
I have one question about this, like how Maya is always trying to attract us. So is it then that will happen until the end, like no matter where you will proceed in your Krishna consciousness, or is it just that, okay, until you have still some material attachments, these things will come more, like how does it work?
Maya will act till the end of this body.
Until we are here, just like
So long as we are in the material nature.
Okay.
Even if we reach up to the level of Brahmalok, Maya will still act. Brahma was attracted by Vaka, his own daughter. Brahma, his own sons, the great sages, they said, "My dear father, what are you doing? You are our spiritual master. This kind of activity does not befit you." And therefore Brahma gave it up. And then he became ashamed and gave up his body. So you see, Maya will act at the very last layer of Ahankar, at the very last boundary of material nature. In fact, the story of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the story of Gopkumar, when Gopkumar has completely transcended this material nature itself, at the very layer of spiritual world, he meets Maya Devi herself. And she comes to surrender to him. She says, "Please accept me as your servant, and I shall serve you forever. And rest assured that you shall never come under my influence." But Gopkumar still wants to associate with Krishna. He wants to meet his Gopalji. That's why Krishna is Madan Mohan. So you see, at the very boundary of material world, still Maya is existing. So there will always be attraction. Okay? So if no further questions, then we stop here today. Tomorrow we continue with the pastime of Maharaj Bharat. Okay, this is actually our story. We are all like Maharaj Bharat, so we should be very afraid after hearing this story. Okay, so thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam.
Krishna,
Pranam Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna.